Alright, I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kodash. Welcome. Alright, the live lesson. The name of this one is The Controversy of Hell and Misunderstanding. This is pretty much something else based off of vocab alone and plantation Christianity, and how they have a gross misunderstanding of the scriptures, plantation Christianity, and no matter how many times we go into it, they're just locked in to what they're locked into, either because they're blind or because they have an agenda and a mission. So be that as it may, we're still gonna push on and keep on, breaking these strongholds down, because this hell situation has been a big stronghold for many centuries, and it's been a very deceptive dogma that was taught by the Roman Catholic Church, which spilled into the Christian churches because they are, daughter religions of the Roman Catholic Church. So what you're looking at is a picture of a depiction somebody drew of hell. That's where you go, and if you're wicked, if you're bad, that's where you go. You go there, you burn forever, you're tortured, you're in constant pain and, grueling pain, and, just a bunch of nonsense that they teach. Just trying to find this one scripture right. I guess it's that, all right. And that's what they teach. And that's, Shalaki, let me grab my phone. And that's according to the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church / plantation Christianity. And pretty much, they what they do is they constantly they're gatekeepers, pretty much, and a gatekeeper is someone who watches over the doctrine or the dogma, that they push out there. So what I did was I looked up hell and just typed in hell on Google, and I just went to this one here because it kind of explains somewhat both sides of it to a certain degree. So I'm just going to use this kind of as a catapult for the lesson. Lord's will to be edifying. Hell. It says, in religion and folklore. Now, folklore, is expressive body of culture shared by a particular group of people. It encompasses the traditions common to that culture, subculture or group. These include oral traditions such as tales, proverbs, and jokes. They include material culture ranging from traditional building styles, so on and so forth. And pretty much that's what it is, nothing more than a fable. It says, in religion and folklore, hell is an afterlife location in which evil souls are subjected to punitive suffering, often torture, as eternal punishment after death. And this is pretty much the concept of what they teach that hell is. Now, there's no such thing as hell, a place of torture, because the Most High is very he gets angry, he has indignation, but he is very compassionate, and very forgiving and merciful power, and that's why the first world, when it became wicked, what happened? He destroyed it by the flood. How come he didn't send all those people to hell? If there was a place called hell, how come all those people that were destroyed by the flood, how come they just didn't go? Well, how come the Lord just didn't send them to hell? Because there's no such thing as hell, everlasting torture, It says, religions with a linear divine history often depict hells as eternal destinations. The biggest, it says, as eternal destinations, right? They depict, these religions depict, hell as eternal destination. Well, that's what they say. But what do the scriptures say? Let's go real quick to Ecclesiastes chapter 12. And just bear with me right quick. All right. And pretty much they're saying that that's the place you go to get judged. Well, that's the final destination of wicked or evil spirits. Well, this is the book of Ecclesiastes 12 and 7. It says, then shall the dust return to the earth as it was. What is the dust? The body. And the spirit shall return unto the Most High who gave it. Why? Because the Most High is the Father of spirits. Right? So that the body goes to the earth. The spirit of man goes to the Father. Men, women, children, whatever. Animals, reptiles, insects, fish, birds, their spirits do not go up because they're in perfect order. Man is the only spirit that goes up into the heavens because man is the only ones that were given the understanding, of what's going on and the ability to discern between good and evil. All right. So let's go from there to Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 16. It says, and moreover I saw under the sun. What is under the sun? The moon. I'm sorry. What is under the sun? The earth. I don't know why I said moon. What is under the sun? The earth. I'm about to say moon again. And moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment. So the place of judgment is where? On earth. This is why when the people back then became so wicked, what did the Lord do? He judged them, and the judgment came in the form of the flood. That was the first death. It says, and moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there. So this is all played out on the planet Earth. Because when one dies, their spirit goes to the Father, and the body goes to the earth. You do not go somewhere where you burn forever. And if that's the case, why didn't Saul, who was a wicked king, how come he didn't go to hell? Because we know that Samuel was a righteous man, right? And Samuel was at rest, so he would go to heaven if he was supposed to be good, right? So why did Samuel tell Saul, who became wicked, that you're going to be with me in this place come tomorrow, I believe it said it was. So he went to the same place that Samuel went to. So why is that? If King Saul was wicked, shouldn't he have gone to hell? That's that gross misunderstanding of words. So this is the book of Job, chapter 3, and I want to get back to this article, if Spirit allows. I just want to get straight to the point. Job 3:11. Why died I not from the womb, and why did I not give up the spirit when I came out of the belly? Why did the knees prevent me, or why the breast that I should suck? For now, if he would have died, right, should I have lain still and been quiet? I should have slept then had I been at rest. Why? Because when you go into the spirit world, the body has rest. Your spirit has rest from this body because this body can break down, can become sick, can be tortured, whatever. And that's the condition of hell is on the earth. People going through certain situations, people being born blind, or people being born maimed or lame or crippled, or born regular, and then some accident happens, and then they get shriveled up, or their bodies are all jacked up. That's hell. Or something happens to where a person, their bones start breaking down, or they start getting different type of curvature, whatever. Those are the judgments of the Lord upon the people. That's what it means. Fear him that is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. because the Most High can contort a person to where they're still alive, but they're physically in pain. It says, which kings and with kings and counselors of the earth, which built desolate places for themselves. So you got kings and counselors, having there being wicked kings and wicked counselors on the earth. So they're there at where? At what? At rest. They're not suffering. It says, or with princes that had gold, who filled their houses with silver. Don't you think there were certain princes that were wicked? Or as in hidden untimely birth, I had not been, as infants which never saw light. It says, there, where? In the spirit world, when they're at rest, in the grave, there, the wicked cease from troubling. So the wicked don't suffer torture, and the wicked cannot trouble anybody. There, the weary be at rest. So aren't there certain people that are oppressed and weary but are wicked? So why is this written? Because this is the state of the dead. When one dies, the body is what suffers the pain. When the spirit leaves the body, that body is at rest. The spirit is at rest. That body does not have anything else going on with it. It's doesn't have a spirit in it. It's not alive. That's what the scriptures say, that the dead praise not the Most High. So there in the spirit world, the wicked cease from troubling. So shouldn't they say there in hell, the wicked catch all kind of hell? The wicked are tortured constantly, No. And there the weary be at rest. There the prisoners rest together. They hear not the voice of the oppressor. The small and the great are there, and the servant is free from his master. See, wherefore is light given to him that is in what? In misery. Because when you're alive, you're in misery. You're in hell. That's why Job said, man that is born of woman is born a few days in much trouble. And life unto the bitter in soul, because living is hell. Especially when you're in a low condition, in a hellified condition. That's what it is. So hell could be the grave, or hell could be a condition. Just like heaven, you have the heavens, where the Father is. You have heavens on the earth, and heaven is a condition played out on earth. You have the heavens when you look up into the sky, the clouds and all that, where the birds are at in the heavens. Then you have the heaven of the heavens of the heavens. Inside joke. Where the Most High is, the spirit world, and then you have heaven on earth. That's why the Lord Yahushua told Capernaum that though they were exalted to heaven, they were going to be brought down to hell. Meaning, from that lofty state that they were in, they were going to be brought down to a condition of pretty much of nothingness. They were going to be dissolved. They were going to be brought down low. All right, so now let's go back to the article. It says, let's see. Let's read it again. In religion and folklore, hell is an afterlife location in which evil souls are subjected to punitive suffering. And we just read that pretty much everyone that dies goes back to the spirit world, back to the Father. Often torture as eternal punishment after death. And that's not the case, because the torture part happens when you're alive. Religions with a linear divine history often depict hell as eternal destinations. In other words, that's where you're going to go. That's it. No, you go before the Father. That's what the scriptures say. It says the biggest examples of which are Christianity and Islam, whereas religions with reincarnation usually depict a hell as an intermediary period between incarnations. In other words, if you're wicked and you die, then you go to hell until you come back on the earth, which is total crap. It says, but the part of reincarnation is biblical, but you have bugged out people out there that have certain beliefs that are correct and then others that are not. As is the case in the dharmic religions, religions typically locate hell in another dimension or under Earth's surface. Other afterlife destinations include heaven, paradise, purgatory, limbo, and the underworld. Now, that is the overall thought, I guess you could say, or teaching of hell in these different plantation Christianity churches. Now this is a good here because it gives the other perspective of it to a certain degree. It says other religions which do not conceive of the afterlife as a place of punishment or reward merely describe an abode of the dead, the grave, a neutral place that is located under the surface of the earth. For example, see Ker, Hades, and Sheol. Now Ker is Mesopotamian for underworld. That's what they call the underworld. Hades is Greek for the underworld, and then they also have a god that they worship. It says, and Sheol comes from the Hebrew word sha'awal, which is pretty much the grave, and that's what's translated as hell when you read in the Old Testament. Sheol or sha'awal. Sheol in the Hebrew Bible is a place of darkness to which the dead go. Under some circumstances, they are thought to be able to be contacted by the living. Sheol is also called Hades. Yeah, they're able to contact by the living. That's why you have something called necromancy, which the scriptures forbid. And that's what happened in the case of Samuel and Saul, King Saul, and the witch of Endor. Such places are sometimes equated with the English word hell, see? So they got part of it right. It says, though a more correct translation would be underworld or world of the dead. The ancient Mesopotamian, Greek, Roman, and Finnic religions include entrances to the underworld from the land of the living. And I just want to get one more point out of here. We're going to jump down to, what was it? There was something else. If I can't find it, we're just going to move on to the scriptures. Let me just scroll through, see if maybe I see it. And if not, then we're moving on. Or was it in... No. Here we go. Religion, mythology, and folklore. And this is what it's all about. It's mythology, it's folklore, they're fables. Hell appears in several mythologies and religions. It is commonly inhabited by demons and the souls of dead people. A fable about hell which recurs in folklore across several cultures is the allegory of the long spoons. Hell is often depicted in art and literature, perhaps most famously in Dante's early 14th century narrative poem, Divine Comedy. And this is what happened. You know, you had, these are what the scriptures call cunningly devised fables. Cunningly devised fables. Let's go to that real quick. 2 Peter 1:16, for we have not followed cunningly devised fables when we made known unto you the power and coming of our Lord Yahushua, but were eyewitnesses of his majesty. So now when you look up this word cunningly, I don't know if it's cunningly devised. Yep, cunningly devised. You have the the Greek word sophizo, where you get the word sophos from. And sophos or sophomore is a wise fool. It says to make wise, teach, to become wise, to have understanding, to invent, play the sophist, to devise cleverly or cunningly. So these things were devised cleverly and cunningly. Now you have the sophist, right, which is a paid teacher of philosophy and rhetoric in ancient Greece, associated in popular thought with moral skepticism and specious reasoning. See? So this is what vocab and them do, because they're all over the place, you know. Like they'll confuse the people, and by the confusion, when they speak and confuse the people, most people will rather just go to them and let them do the thinking for them because it's too much to take in, and that's what they count on. It says a person who reasons with clever but fallacious arguments. And that's exactly what vocab in them dudes are. All right. So to devise cleverly or cunningly. So now, where did this whole concept of hell come from, because it's not in the scriptures, it's not in the Old Testament, and it's not in the New Testament. Because when Yahushua spoke of hell, when anybody in the scripture spoke of hell, it was a direct reflection back to the Old Testament. Now, what happened? Well, you have different words in the different languages for the word hell. In Greek, you have several words that are translated as hell. You have Hades, you have Tartaros, and you have Gehenna. Now, Gehenna, the Greek word Gehenna, goes back to the Hebrew or the Valley of Hinnom. All right. Now, this term Gehenna, when you look in the Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary, right, Gehenna, it says Valley of Hinnom. It was an actual valley, right? And there were certain situations going on in this valley when you do the research on the history. It says, a valley on the west and southwest of Jerusalem, which formed part of the border between Judah and Benjamin. Joshua 15:8, and it gives you a bunch of precepts on it. It says here, Ahaz, blah, 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 it goes into more scriptures. It says, sacrifice their sons to Molech, right? It says, for this reason, Josiah defiled the place. It gives you more scriptures. It says, after referring to the idolatrous barbarous, let's see, Jeremiah. Okay, now, here we go. It says, Jeremiah prophesies a great slaughter of the people there and in the siege of Jerusalem. It gives you the precept in Jeremiah 19. It says, now listen to this good. So now we know that the Valley of Hinnom, or what they translated into the Greek Gehenna, was a place of slaughter, that the Lord was going to slaughter the Israelites there because they were doing what? They were worshiping idols. So it was a place of judgment, where the Most High wrought judgment upon Israel for their idolatrous ways. Right? So it goes on to say, after the Old Testament period, Jewish apocalyptic writers began to call the Valley of Hinnom the entrance to hell. Later, hell itself. So when we read about Yahushua speaking about hell, he's speaking about going back to this situation that happened in Israel, where that was a place where they burned garbage. So it was a place associated with fire. There was a place where they burned garbage. There was a place where they would burn their sons and their daughters, sacrifice them to Molech. And some sources say that was actually also a place where they would burn criminals. All right? So it was associated with fire. So that's why I said later the Jewish apocalyptic writers said that, incorporated that with hell itself. No, with let me see. Let me read that part again. It says, after the Old Testament period, Jewish apocalyptic writers began to call the Valley of Hinnom the entrance to hell. Later, hell itself. So that's where this whole folklore / fables came from. They came from Jake, just like Greek mythology came from Jake. Just like many other philosophies and fables came from Jake. And that's why we read in these scriptures here, 1 Timothy 4:7, but refuse profane and old wives' fables, and exercise thyself rather unto godliness. Now let's look up this word fable. It should go back to the word mythos. Old wives, let me see what this says. Old wives. Graodas. Old womanish, old wives, and old women. Yeah, tales of an old woman. And then you got the word fables, which is the word mythos or mythos. A speech word saying a narrative, story. So that whole thing about hell is nothing more than a story. a true narrative, a fiction, and that's what it is, a fiction, a fable, an invention, a falsehood. So the teaching of hell is nothing more than a fable, an invention, a falsehood. And that's why in Peter called it what? He called it cunningly devised fables. You know? Because they were sat down, someone sat down and actually put this together, got scriptures to add to the mix to be able to push that madness. And that's what Vocab Malone, Plantation Christianity, the Roman Catholic Church, and all of them bring out or say. Now, let's go back. This is 2 Timothy 4:4. It says, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth and shall be turned unto fables, unto those myths. And that's all hell is a myth. Not giving heed to Jewish fables, because we just read that, Jewish writers, after the Old Testament, apocalyptic Jewish writers said that the Valley of Hinnom was the entrance to hell, later hell itself. So it says, not giving heed to Jewish fables and commandments of men that turn from the truth. And some jakes out there are going to hear vocab. They're going to be a part of, they're going to know that they're Hebrew Israelites. They're going to be believers, and then turn around and go with vocab. Those are those seducing spirits. All right. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Let's see what else we have. Okay, we got the Gehenna part. Matter of fact, since we mentioned that, let's go to it. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 29. And you can read the whole chapter. It breaks it down in depth. We're just going to get to the point. This is Jeremiah 7:29. Cut off thine hair, O Jerusalem. So this is the Most High by the mouth of Jeremiah giving Jake a warning on what to do. Because when you would cut your hair off, what would that be a sign of? A sign of mourning. And cast it away. And take up a lamentation on high places. For the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua hath rejected and forsaken the generation of his wrath. Why? Because Jake was being wicked. They were worshiping the Queen of Heaven. When you read up above, this should be the chapter, where they were worshiping the Queen of Heaven, pouring drink offerings out to her, giving cakes, making cakes to the Queen of Heaven. So the Lord was angry. So that's why I said, look, you better lament. Cut your hair and start lamenting, because this generation is the generation of my wrath. Because that was a time when the Lord brought vengeance upon him. That's why Yahushua said, when you see the Jerusalem compassed about with armies, know that the desolation thereof is nigh. These be the days of vengeance. So that was a generation of the Most High's wrath during the time of 70 AD. So this time around, 2/3 here in America and wherever Israelites are around the world that are set up for judgment, those are the generations of the Most High's wrath that he's going to pour upon them. So it says, for the children of Judah have done evil in my sight, saith the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai. They have set their abominations in the house which is called by my name to pollute it. See? So not only were they worshiping idols, but they were setting it up in the house of the Lord. So now you know one of the main reasons why the Most High had the Babylonians destroy that place. Because it was polluted. And they have built the high places of Tophet. Wait, let's look up Tophet. Tophet. Thapath, place of fire, a place in southeast end of valley of son of Hinnom, south of Jerusalem. So if Tophet really means place of fire, now you're starting to see even more why the valley of Hinnom or Gehenna was equated with hell, a place to burn forever. Because there was fire. We've talked about the fire, the burning of the children to Molech. The burning of garbage in Gehenna, the burning of criminals in Gehenna. So it was all set up by fire. But when you look at it, what's the word I'm looking for? When you think about the future judgment is coming, it is going to come by fire. Which is going to be the second death, which Lord's will, we're going to get into that. So it says, they have built the high places of Tophet, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom. to burn their sons and their daughters in the fire. So see, this place keeps being equated with fire, place of judgment, which I commanded them not, neither came it into my heart. So the Lord didn't tell them to do this. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, that it shall no more be called Tophet, nor the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. Let's look up that word slaughter. Valley of slaughter, Haragah, which the word is Harag. Harag is a killing, slaughter. Valley of slaughter. So that's what it was called, the valley of slaughter. So the valley of slaughter for who? For the children of Israel, because they were burning their children to Molech, and the Lord judged them there. So that's why it was equated with a place of judgment. So that's why these so-called Jewish apocalyptic writers, after the Old Testament period, which those were Jakes, equated that place with the entrance to hell and later hell itself. So you see how it built up from the entrance to the actual place. So it was just a play on all these different fables that were being brought out, because everything goes back to Jake. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be called Tophet, nor the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter, for they shall bury in Tophet till there be no place. And the carcasses of this people shall be meat for the fowls of heaven, and for the beasts of the earth, and none shall fray them away. Then will I cause to cease from the cities of Judah and from the streets of Jerusalem the voice of mirth. That's why when people speak about hell or Gehenna or Sheol or Sha'awal, it's always referred to as fire. It's always referred to as a place of torment, a place of woes and lamentations, because the Lord said he was going to make the cease from the streets of Jerusalem and from the cities of Judah the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, for the land shall be desolate. So it was a place of judgment that was equated with torment and horror and fire, So that's why they use this as a springboard for so-called hell. Right? So now let's see what else we got. Let's go from there to... So we read about the fables, right? Now check this out. We read about fables, mythos, which is pretty much things that were invented, fictions that were invented. That's why Peter said, when we came to make known the death of the Lord Yahushua and his resurrection, we didn't do it with our cunningly devised fables. But check this out. This is the book of Baruch 3 and 14. Learn where is wisdom, where is strength, where is understanding, that thou mayest know also where is length of days and life, where is the light of the eyes and peace. Who hath found out her place, or who hath come into her treasures, meaning wisdom? Where are the princes of the heathen? Where are the princes of the heathen become, and such as rule the beasts upon the earth? They that had their pastime with the fowls of the air, and they that hoarded up silver and gold, wherein men trust, and made no end of their getting. For they that wrought in silver and were so careful, and whose works are unsearchable, they are vanished and gone down to the grave. See, it's dealing with grave, dying. Without what? Without wisdom. And others are come up in their stead, because you have generations that die and generations that come, but the earth abideth forever. Young men have seen light and dwelt upon the earth, but the way of knowledge have they not known, because this truth is not given to everyone. It's not given to the nations. It's only given to the nation of Israel. And there are people that die for want of what we have. Barakatah Yahweh Bashem Yahushai for that. Because most people are not going to find their way into the truth. It says, nor understood the paths thereof, nor laid hold of it. Their children were far off from that way. And these nations don't have a clue. It says, it hath not been heard of in Canaan, neither hath it been seen in Teman. The Agarenes, which are the Hagarenes, that seek wisdom upon earth, the merchants of Meron and of Theman, the authors of what? Of fables, because these fables, some of these fables Jake came up with, but a lot of these fables too, these nations came up with. Because remember, you have Sumeria, you have Babylon, ancient. You had well, that was later on, but you had Nimrod and Semiramis and Tammuz, which were Cushites, so-called Ethiopians, and that was a bunch of fables that were brought up out of that situation. And all Jake did was made up certain fables and certain myths and incorporated other fables from these other heathens, because they were the authors of some of these fables also. The authors of fables and searchers out of understanding, none of these have known the way of wisdom or remember her paths. O Israel, how great is the house of the Most High, and how large is the place of his possession. All right, so now that was just a little to give a little tidbit, so to speak, of where some of these fables came from outside of Jake, them Jewish fables. So that's pretty much what hell is. It's nothing more than fables that have been taught by these different churches, that have contorted the minds of these people out here. So now let's go real quick to the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Let's read this real quick, and then I got another precept, and we'll it'll close out soon. It says 2 Corinthians 4:3, but if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. And that's the key. The ones that are lost are not going to get this knowledge. It says, in whom the God of this world, which is who? Esau, which is working under the direct orders of Satan, which is working under the direct orders of the Most High, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not. So they're not going to get it. Lest the light of the glorious gospel of Yahushua, who is the image of the Most High, should shine unto them. And that's right. So they're not going to get it because they've been blinded. Because the Lord gave this devil power to be able to blind people on the earth. But the Lord said that if it were possible, they would deceive the elect. Why? Because these cunningly devised fables are so cunning, and so seducing, that it could almost get an elect, but it can't get them. Why? Because the elect is the elect. So now let's go to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 14 and 11. Therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles shall there be a visitation, because these idols and these fables and these different things have caused Jake to err from the path of truth. Because in the creature of the Most High they are become an abomination and stumbling blocks to the souls of men, and a snare to the feet of the unwise. That's why the Lord destroyed Jake back then, in the valley of Hinnom. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them, the corruption of life. Why is that? Because Ecclesiastes 7:29, lo, this only have I found, that the Most High hath made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. And this is why, let's go real quick to Genesis 6. This is why the Lord destroyed the first earth, not the earth. That's what the Lord destroyed the people on the earth and the fowls and the animals and all that by a flood. That was the first death. Genesis 6:5. And the power saw the wickedness of man, that it was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of the heart was only evil continually. Why? Because the Most High created man upright, but they sought out many inventions. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth. So this was the first major judgment that took place on the earth. This would be considered the first death. It says, both man and beast and the creeping things and the fowls of the air, for it repented me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. So in that same breath, so to speak, we have let me just get it. The next riches. Let's go real quick. Let me type it in this way. All right. So let me go here to Peter's. Matter of fact, you know what? Let me get this. Revelation 2:11. He that hath an ear, this is Yahushua speaking, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. And what is that second death? Thermonuclear destruction. The so-called, or the lake of fire, as the scriptures call it. Revelation 20:6. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection, meaning the Israelites that are part of the elect that will be delivered, that will have the first rule in the kingdom. It says, on such the second death hath no power, but they shall be priests of the Most High and of Yahushua, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. Revelation 20:14. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. The lake of fire is the missiles and the laser from the chariots that's going to be hitting this place. And when John saw it, from the chariot, and I believe that's Revelation 15, he described it as fire. So this is a lake of fire. America's going to be that lake of fire, but they're equating this with hell, but that's a fable. We just read where that whole fire thing came from. This is the second death, which is what? The destruction. Revelation 21:8. But the fearful and unbelieving and abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. And that's what the second death is about. And this is why the Apostle Peter broke it down here in 2 Peter 3:1, which this is what the lake of fire is about. And he goes into the first death and into the second death. But the first death is not called the first death in the scriptures. But we know it's the first death because if the lake of fire, which is the nuclear missiles, the fire from the missiles and the chariots, if that's the second death, what was the first death? Because that sentence is coming upon earth. Just like back then, the flood came upon earth. But this time, the Lord is not going to destroy all of humanity on the face of the earth like he did with the flood, because there's still going to be people left over after the destruction that are not going to repent of their sorceries and murders and all of that. So 2 Peter 3:1, this second epistle, beloved, I now write unto you, in both which I stir up your pure minds by way of remembrance, that you may be mindful of the words which were spoken before by the holy prophets, and of the commandment of us, the apostles of the Lord and Savior. Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. There's nothing changed. You guys have been waiting on the Messiah for this, that. Scoffers. For this they willingly are ignorant of. Because how long did it take the people during the time of Noah, when he was prophesying, before the ark was finished and the Lord actually brought the flood? So they were doing the same ignorance back then. So they had to be scoffing Noah. It doesn't go into specifics, but there's certain scriptures that kind of hint towards it. It says that by the word of the Most High, the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the waters and in the waters. This is talking about earth, right? Whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. So all those people perished. The earth didn't perish. It was the people. And the animals and the fowls. The only thing that didn't die, besides Noah and his family and the animals on the ark, were the fish and and the octopus and all of that were in the sea, because they could breathe underwater. It says, but the heavens and earth which are now. So what are the heavens and earth that are now? This is talking about the heavens, which is a condition of authority and power that the Rothschilds, the international banking families, the elite, so-called elite from among the nations that are living good, that's their heavens. But the heavens and the earth, which are now, by the same word, are kept in store, because they're preserved. For what? Reserved unto fire, against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. So this is the fire that's coming, the destruction of the missiles and the lasers from the chariots, especially here in America, the land of Israel, and wherever else on the planet that the Lord hits. It says, but beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that that one day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. The Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some count slackness. So just because it tarries, wait for it will surely come. But is long suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. It says, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens, which is what? Esau's rulership, the rulership of these nations, and even Jake that have made it in the society, that sold his soul, shall pass away with a great noise. What is that great noise? It's talking about the when the missiles hit, and and they cause all that chaos and panic and cause the earth to reel to and fro like a drunkard. And the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burnt up. Why? Because this is the second death. This is what the Lord uh, uh, heavens and of the missiles and the lasers from the chariots, especially here in America, the land of Israel, and wherever else on the planet that the Lord hits. It says, "But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that when the missiles hit, and they cause all that chaos and panic and cause the earth to reel to and fro like a drunkard. And the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that..." This is what the Lord